Masculinity is always been associated with attracting the opposite gender. Some say it's the masculine behavior that attracts. Some say it's the height or body, and people give their personal experiences and experiments say this and that. But actual studies were done on this subject, confirming most of the masculinity that attracts and determine what kind of dating life you would have is related to your facial features, sexually dimorphic masculine features. So we will be looking at what these studies found and what they confirm, and I would give my own conclusion at the end of the video. If you want to support the channel and get your own facial analysis with personalized look max and advice, link will be down in the description. And if you want to read more about these topics like these, you can also check my personal blog at neurofacerating.com. Without further ado, let's get this video started. So the first study basically talks about how men's facial masculinity determines female interest for friendship versus short or long-term dating. By morphing a man's photo from its most masculine form to its most androgynous form, researchers were able to directly gauge how masculinity affected women's sensations of friendliness, being enemy-like, and being sexy. Sexiness and enemy-like perceptions both increased as masculinity increased, which is in keeping with other research finding women find aggressive, dark triad, or violent traits to be most sexually arousing. However, at a certain point of extreme masculinity, there was a decrease in the sexiness and only a rise in the enemy-like perception. On the other end of the spectrum, the less masculine a male face was, the more likely it was to be perceived as a friend and less sexy or enemy-like. Thus, one propensity for being judged by women as a short-term, long-term partner or friend-zone partner might depend highly on one's facial masculinity, both for short-term and long-term mating. Women preferred men who were far more masculine than the average man. This data may suggest that if a man finds himself continually in the friend zone with women, it might not be due to anything behavioral, and instead the best explanation might be found in the nearest mirror. This next study discusses how women prefer men with dominant, aggressive, and wide faces, a high FWHR or facial weight to height ratio. Facial weight to height ratio, FWHR, is a proportionate measure of a man's facial weight to his height, measured laterally from the edges of the zygomatic processes and vertically from the mid-brow to the top of the upper lips. Valentine in 2014 performed a study utilizing a speed dating format which consisted of young male and female subjects, a total of 159 total subjects, 78 young men and 81 young women, who weren't compensated in any way for their participation and thus were participating in the study because they were looking for the chance to find a real-life partner, suggesting the choices were primarily motivated by the actual mating interest. The male in the study were rated by the independent raters on the following metrics. Dominance, unisex raters. How aggressive would this person be if provoked, unisex raters. Facial adiposity or body fat levels, unisex raters. And attractiveness, female raters only. Inter-rater reliability was high for all of the four dimensions. Thus, it was demonstrated that raters could come to a clear consensus on how dominant, aggressive, overweight, and attractive each man appeared. Analysis of the outcome showed that men's facial weight to height ratio explained fully 34% of the variance in women's interest in men for short-term relationships. Facial weight to height ratios was a very powerful predictor of being chosen for future dates by women, even when higher facial weight to height ratio faces were not deemed more attractive by women. A high facial weight to height ratios men were perceived as more dominant and thus more desirable to women for short-term sexual involvement. And this final study discusses how teenage boys with dominant facial features have sex earlier. Halpern and Ardy in 1994 conducted a 3-year-long study of 58 teenage boys to determine the effects of sex hormones, primarily androgens, on sexual behavior. They administered a series of questionnaires conducted in the boys' homes regarding their involvement in various sexual activities. The interviewer rated the subjects' levels of physical attractiveness. The subjects' levels of pubertal development related to the Tanner scale was self-assessed. Facial dominance was assessed by presenting classrooms of college students with yearbook photos of the subjects in a random order, and the photos were rated on a 7-point scale, 1 being very submissive and 7 being very dominant. The researchers found facial dominance was strongly related to the age of sexual debut and levels of involvement, and the effects was even more pronounced than that of physical attractiveness. So in conclusion, it's not about having that hyper-masculine look, it's about having a certain set of facial features and dominant ratios. This is why soft boys can still be highly desirable, because they still have some of these ratios. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. That's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. A like and subscribe will be highly appreciated. And like usual, catch you guys in the next one.